Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. Recorded live on the main stage at RCC's Toronto Store 2022 conference in June, Ron Wilson, President of Best Buy Canada, and Matt Povse, Senior Vice President of Retail, Geek Squad Services, and Best Buy Business, sit down with me for a lively, wide-ranging discussion covering the nature of post-COVID era consumers, retail marketplaces, new format locations, and talk about enriching retail through technology. Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing?
Excellent. You?
All right. Well, let's tuck in. We've only got about 3 hours together. We got a lot of room to cover, so let's tuck in.
I'll get comfy.
All right, get comfy. All right. So I wanted to start with the COVID era, and this isn't a history lesson, but Ron, I wanted to get from you an idea reflecting on the past 3 years of changes that are more structural to the business, to your business, and to retail in general, and then we'll talk about changes in consumer behavior, Matt, as we kind of meander through our conversation. So as you reflect on the past 3 years, what's changed?
It's hard to separate those things. I think if you start with a customer's expectations have completely changed. You know, if you think about 3 years ago, you'd see these long lines in Tim Hortons, whether it's in the store or in the drive-thru. Now, I mean, I have my Tim Hortons coming in the next 5 minutes. Uber Eats is going to deliver it. I mean, why wouldn't they deliver a $3 coffee, right? Right. People expect that. They now think that this is normal to just have everything delivered. So, you know, customers have completely changed their expectations of what convenience looks like. They should get everything whenever they want it, however they want it, delivered right to them when they want it. And, you know, that's completely changed everything.
Is there a business model for that? I mean, I see the rapid 15-minute delivery services the same day, but that's a bite of the apple, right? I mean, they're taking a fair bit of cost. Are consumers going to pay for that convenience, or are we going to have to absorb?
Some do, and I think, again, what every retailer, every business has to choose. They have to decide, you know, do you want to be able to have the best store? You want to be able to deliver? Do people order in-store, pick up in-store? Deliver to their home, what level? 1 day, 2 day, 3 day? It depends on how complex, what it is that you're trying to deliver. But you know, it's not just the customer. I think the team has changed, employees have changed, the workforce has changed, the expectations there have changed. You know, whether it be work from home, more and more and more, especially in the last 3 years, you know, a company's values are extremely important. How you treat the workforce, what the workforce looks like. Can they see themselves? Are they proud of working for the company? When they tell other people where they work, what kind of reaction do they get? You know, is it one that I'm proud to work for this company because of the values that this company represents? Or I really need to find somewhere else? And that's become more important. And it's not just employees, but customers as well want to shop where they see themselves, and there's an alignment in those values.
Right. Matt, the COVID year has been called actually by one of our fellow speakers today, Carl Boutte, the Great Acceleration. Yeah. So I guess my question is, was this coming anyway? I mean, there are some things that were on the way anyway. E-commerce, for example, you guys are you've been in e-commerce longer than most, and you've lived through peaks, super peaks. Yeah. You know, that's day in, day out for you. So this alignment to values, this idea was that coming anyway and just accelerated versus, you know?
I think the way to explain that is, you know, Ron touched on it. Customers want to spend their time and their resources, their money, in places where their values are aligned with, you know, and we can't distinguish our customers from our employees. They're both human beings. Our stores are meeting places for humans to interact with other human beings. Whether you're an employee or a customer to a customer, an employee to an employee. So to speak to whether or not COVID accelerated that, I think if you think about the priorities that we had to think about when COVID came, you know, the word safety comes to the forefront of our minds, right? Sure. And safety is interesting because you think about safety in the sort of the core sense of social distancing and masks and plexiglass screens and wiping down keypads, but you know, we thought much more deeply about that and said safety is about safety of mind. How do people feel when they come to this place that we call Best Buy, whether you're a customer or whether you're an employee? And that spans into the topics of diversity and inclusion and, you know, accepting people for, who they are, so they can come and they can feel creative and be at their best without judgment, and absolute respect for human dignity in all cases. And when you get underneath that sort of table stake, all sorts of other great things start to happen. I think just COVID helped us really get behind that in a more meaningful way, because it was happening en masse to everybody, not just in the workplace, but in our own homes and our own personal lives.
But maybe just to add to that a little bit and answer part of what you were saying there, if you just take one example, that being, what the customer's expectations of having their product either delivered or picked up in store. Mm-hmm. Going into COVID, we would deliver approximately 20% of our sales would be digital sales. Yeah. And every year that was growing by, a few percent, maybe 2-3%. So now you would expect our sales would be somewhere in the 28% range if it had went normal. As we all know, we had stores opening, closing, en masse closing, not allowed staff, you name it. At one point, we were doing 100% of our business was online. 100%. It was double the previous year's sales with stores. So that required a complete re-engineering of everything that we did, because that's what the customer expected and at that point needed, whether it was laptops or what have you. And so now that COVID is kind of over, we've settled in at around 40-45% digital, but that's radically different than the trajectory that we were originally on. Sure. And you see that whether it's in the things that Matt had talked about, but we could go through 30 different areas in the organization that exact same thing has happened, and there's just this huge acceleration. So, it's busy.
Cyber Monday every day kind of volume.
Significantly more.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. And let's talk about that a little bit more, because when I look at the e-commerce numbers today, industry-wide, latest numbers have e-commerce dropping 25% year over year, right? So the retailers I talk to across a broad spectrum are saying, listen, people are loving going back to the stores. Their e-commerce is going down. Now, the waterline hasn't receded, but their growth year over year has gone down. I mean, this time last year, a couple of months ago, the stores were closed. So people are, you're going to have a high e-commerce number. So is this just a math game? I mean, where's this going to settle out? I mean, there's the industry kind of, there's a couple of magic numbers out there, 25 by 25, right? 25% of all online, of all retail, core retail, right? So X cars and gas is going to be done online. You guys are at the front tail of that because of the assortment that you have and the expertise. Where do you think it's going to settle out? I've heard 50%. I just can't imagine it. But right now, we think we're, I don't know, what do you think? We think we're in the 15 range after COVID in general. But what do you,
to your point, I mean, I think the numbers are deceiving because, for us, we had 50 stores. Last year, this exact day, we had 50 stores closed completely. So it distorts what the year-over-year e-commerce numbers. But given true freedom of choice, consumers have definitely accelerated their desire to have some form of a digital experience, whether that's order online, deliver to home, order online, ship it into the store and pick it up there, be in the store, order something that's not in the store, have it shipped at home, so on and so forth. So that now is in the, call it 40% plus range. Maybe Matt can speak a little bit more to what I'm about to say, but we're re-engineering our stores to be kind of the hub of all things. So whether the customer comes in to have an experience in the store, which is what we're trying to more deliver, is that experience. I want to come and experience something new, or whether they just want to pick up an order.
Well, there's a spectrum,
the store is part of the process, and I think it's a huge differentiator for us, along with services. But there are other pure play online retailers that don't have that, and so whether you order online, have it delivered, and then it's not what you wanted, so you want to be able to return it. The store is the most convenient way to do that. Or even ship from store. Every single one of our stores are now warehouses. And so if you're in, Lethbridge, is it more efficient for us to have the store ship it directly to you in Lethbridge or our distribution center in Vancouver? Right? So stores are at the center of everything that we're doing. The percentage is becoming less relevant. It's just making sure that we have the capability to service a customer in whatever way they want to interact with us.
Matt, I want to pick up on that point. The more and more I think about e-commerce when we have this conversation about store, I mean, you said store Ron, many, many times. It feels more and more like a distinction without a difference, right? It's all just retail. You're pulling these things together.
Yeah.
But from a store perspective, there's this spectrum of experience to efficiency, right? If we think about modern retail, where do you see yourself fitting? I guess you're on almost all points of that spectrum.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, just picking up again, it's you migrate away from this idea that we've got a network of over 130 stores across Canada, and it's really easy to think that every single store is engineered and built the same, and it was, because it was serving a trade area. It's the same as a store, on the West Coast was doing the same as the store on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Operationally the same, processes the same, inventory the same. And when you step back and you think about it as more of a digital, physical home ecosystem of sorts, you take a step back at a macro level and you say to yourself, customers engage with us in a myriad of ways. And our first message is to our people. Take a person in a store who goes from the idea that they're just there to service somebody who walks through the front door. And we migrate from this notion of just omni-channel retailing to what we characterize as one Best Buy. And the idea there is to tell all of our employees, no matter if they're at CHQ or our head office, or they're standing behind a terminal in our store, that their duty is to service a customer whether they can see them or not. That a customer may come in the form of an order that's printed out inside of the back warehouse of a store, and their duty is to get that best experience to the customer, even if they can't see the pupils in their eyeballs. And then you take another step back and you say, we can start to characterize stores and give them different personalities within a larger trade area, a micro market, as it were. And you can give stores different personalities. You can connect those stores together with intraday delivery, shared teams, these sorts of concepts so that they work as a team of stores. We can introduce new store concepts. They don't all have to be 30,000, 35,000 square foot stores. They can be small format stores with just as mighty an outcome, stacks of inventory behind the scenes, very cost efficient to run, and we can place those and feather those in within the market, servicing communities that might be underserved, complementing the network of stores, and you've got now a system of stores working as a team, and customers can choose to drive 20 kilometers to a store that's more elaborate on experiences and authority and demonstrations and high-end service, and then you've got another store who's go in, you already know what you want, pick it up and get out.
Friction, removed all friction.
Or we can roll a Geek Squad to your home and have it all delivered. And so there's an infinite number of ways customers can engage, and they can. The most important thing that we can do is make sure that in that moment when the customer needs their product, it's seamless. That's that frictionless experience, that it's just, they're not guessing how to shop with us. They've just decided to do it, and we've made it easy for them to do.
Ron, let's talk about back of the house for a bit. Let's talk about supply chain. So I don't think I've said the word supply chain as many times in my life in the past year as I have. The consumers know what it means. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being kind of normal, because that's still weird, 5 being critically bad, where do you assess the situation today? And then I'm going to ask you to assess it for the rest of the year. But today, as we sit here, again, not a history lesson. We all know supply chain's been back and forth, but how do you see it today? So 1 is fine, 5 is really critical.
Right this minute, I'd say a 2. Compared to the early days where, our laptop business went up by 5 times. So there's no way we're going to be able to satisfy demand. And, everybody hears about all the things that are going on in the shipping industry and factories being closed.
Microchip industry and whatever.
But our teams have done a good job of understanding what's required, and we've adjusted slightly. We've been working very closely with our partners to make sure that we have a good understanding of what to expect. And so in some cases, we've extended our days that we would normally have on hand. We always call laptops the lettuce of the... if you have it for longer than 14 days in your system, it goes bad. So in some cases, we'll take it up to 45 days, right, or 30 days, just to buffer anything that might go wrong. But I think the other thing that is helping us is that we have a marketplace, as you know. We've invited all of our vendor partners, our competitors, other retailers. They all have the capability of being able to put their product on our website. So that's also helped significantly.
Like distributed inventory almost amongst an ecosystem.
It is. I don't know, if you look at, let's say, Dyson, right? Dyson has a store on our site. We have other retailers that sell Dyson product on our site, and then we sell Dyson product. So, as it gets allocated out, everything is always out of stock, whether it's Apple, Dyson, or Sony, PlayStation, what have you. From a Best Buy perspective, if you're a customer, you're going to a Best Buy website, and there are going to should be product.
Yeah.
If it's out on Best Buy, then it means, generally speaking, it's not going to be available.
So where do you assess it for the rest of 2022 in terms of on a scale of 1 to 5? So Shanghai looks like, for example, pick one, it looks like it's loosening up a bit. There's still lots of boats off the coast of Vancouver waiting to get docked, and we could bring costs into this as well, fuel surcharges and whatever. So does your ranking change for holiday or back to school?
It's really hard to predict. And again, I think we do business in so many different areas. You're always going to have challenges with Apple. That was before, and it still is.
Yeah.
Something comes out new, and it's sold out instantly. If we get any of the brand new Xbox or PS5s, it's sold out right away.
Yeah.
Video cards. So some of these things they've always been that way.
Is it worse now, though? Off mic we were talking about, is this the end of globalization? Is this the end of just-in-time inventory? Is this almost back to my first question? Is this a permanent change of the way you two are thinking about how you manage your supply chain, or is this something we're just going to buffer through?
I don't think that's a new problem. I think marrying your inventory to the demand. The closer and the faster the inventory can get from production to its future owner has always been the problem. The same is true for labor.
But are you carrying more safety stock? Are you tactically, listen, maybe we've gone too close to the line, because many retailers tell me they think they got too close to the line, and it could be bad weather in the West, it could be whatever, and the supply chain snaps. Maybe it's too efficient. Is there such a thing as too efficient?
I don't think so. I'm sure that's a thing. But again, when it first happened, anytime something happens that you haven't seen before, it catches you off guard. It surprises you, and of course there's going to be a challenge. And again, I'm not talking about things that are globally gone. Like, you just can't get them. You can't fix that.
Yeah.
But assuming it's available and you know what's going on, which I believe we're all now very aware of what's happening, and I think you have to plan for it. And we are. And so our inventory today is roughly the same as it was a year ago relative to sales. So we're not making massive adjustments from that perspective.
Okay. And so last question on this before I beat it into the grave kind of thing is do you have more resources, better ERP systems against the supply chain, more resources to accomplish the same thing?
We've put the majority of our resources facing the customer. We have the same resources working with our vendor partners that we had before.
Okay.
And again, that for us has always been a critical part of our business. When you're moving the amount of inventory that we are, and again, like I wasn't joking when I said laptops are like lettuce. So you have to be good at that. We wouldn't be where we are today if we weren't good at that already.
Right.
The part that's changed more is our ability to deliver to the customer in multiple different ways, much more efficiently. So we've taken down our delivery time from order by almost 60%. You're never going to be able to predict, a typhoon and a factory goes off, and then you have to that's just part of what we do.
Yeah.
Part of what we do.
It's day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
Table stakes basically now, really.
You have to. You have to be able to do that, yeah.
Matt, let's move off supply chain and let's get back to this digital enhanced employee and customer. How has it changed? So, the customer behavior when they're walking into your stores, what do you do differently? If you kind of dig into that a little bit as you think about customers that walk in and they're maybe browsing less. We know during COVID they were kind of laser-like focused. They didn't really want to dwell much.
Yeah.
But now they're coming in. They've been on TikTok. They've been on Insta. They've been on wherever. How are you kind of adapting the store environment to the modern customer?
Yeah. Oh, wow. How much time do we have?
3 hours, right, Kevin?
3 hours?
Kevin, you
okay.
give us some extra time.
I'll speak slowly. I think the first thing to really recognize is, to your point, during COVID, there was much more expressed intent from the customer just to get in and get out.
Right.
And we measured that in conversion. How many customers come in, how many actually bought. That number was as best as it's ever been for the obvious reasons. There wasn't time for you to peruse and shop. You had to just get in and get out. Now we're starting to see that soften, which basically puts the onus on our associates to really engage and take that time with the customer. We've got a mantra at Best Buy, and you've heard this before from other companies. Amazon calls it a frictionless experience. Apple, it just works, right? That really intuitive, this thing didn't waste my time, right? It was really slick. Customers on the digital side, we have to first recognize that digital consumes a huge amount of our mind share. And we only have 24 hours in a day, and we're probably sleeping for half of that. And so when customers walk in, we have a duty to make sure that we acknowledge that they've chosen to spend some time with us, and we have an obligation to make sure that when they're done with us, that they leave with this feeling of absolute satisfaction that time was well spent. And it really encourages us to have a thoughtful conversation around the customer, which starts with our non-commissioned sales environment. Our interests are theirs; they're not our own.
Yeah,
right? We're not lining our pockets with commissions and incentives. We hire great people who love being part of.
You would still have upsell, cross-sell initiatives and metrics on the store floor. I mean,
so we certainly watch it, but it's a result of an organic set of behaviors.
Okay.
We never sit down and say, Jimmy, you need to sell $1 million this year or you're out. Right? You just need to we need to observe you having appropriate, intelligent, thoughtful, and caring conversations with our customers. Look, you can all relate to this. You walk into a store, if you feel like we don't have it in stock, well, we didn't have what you wanted, but we actually took the time with you to figure out your problem, you're happy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And you're going to come back every time. Whether you got what you wanted or not. We do a great job of making sure you've got what you wanted. And so, and it's not just product, it's an accompanying sort of, we've got the services programs that make the product better, and now we've got the membership program, which is just crazy awesome. Customers really, we want them to leave feeling time was well spent. If they came in researched online and they already zeroed in, let's take them there. Why waste their time selling them something they didn't really want? So to me, this is all very sort of common sense, and I think customers appreciate that when they walk into our stores.
But there are subtle changes, right? Matt had talked about a new store format. One of the things that we started looking at, given how far things had shifted to digital, was new store formats. So we opened up a brand new store in Edmonton. Our typical store is 30 to 36,000 square feet. It's got maybe a 2,000 square foot warehouse, and the rest is retail space. A lot of the inventory is on the floor. In this store, the total store is 5,000 square feet. There's only about 2,500 square feet dedicated to retail, and the rest is warehouse. And the warehouse is very efficiently organized. And the goal of this store is to be able to have the exact same amount of inventory selection as a 36,000 square foot store, but in 5,000 feet. I know it sounds crazy, but it is. And the reason is because what happens is the customer's starting their journey online, and they look on our website and they determine, in my market, my store, do they have it in stock? So as long as it shows that it's in stock and I can go pick it up, what does it matter if it's a 5,000 square foot store or it's a 36,000 square foot store? And what we're seeing is that the customer is responding like that, and the percentage of online business that we're doing out of the market is the same as a 36,000 square foot store. There's no difference. The customer doesn't see the difference. And so where I'm going with that is, so now what's the mindset of the employee?
Yeah.
It's different. It's slightly different. So, it's not right. We're still Best Buy. We're still selling what we sell. But their thought process is a little bit different. The vast majority of the customers that they're dealing with are people who have ordered something online and they're now coming to pick it up in the store.
Or they're coming in and doing this online experience they would have otherwise done in their living room with the help of an advisor in the store.
Exactly. Yeah. One's more experience, the other's more efficiency, right?
And so the things that are in the store, though, are things that you can't do at home, like in some cases. So it's a little bit more difficult to activate a wireless phone, so we have that there. But so there's these things that have changed just a little bit.
When you think of stores, both of you, when you think of, I talk to retailers, some of these digitally native vertical brands, for example, are opening stores for customer acquisition. They find it as a better, more efficient, jury's out on this, by the way, but they find it as a very efficient way of acquiring new customers and continue relationships. Do you have other metrics for your stores like that, or is it all based on sales?
So say that again. Is it so measuring stores for acquisition
of customers? So instead of giving another dollar to the platforms, retailers are saying, well, I could give X number of dollars to a social media platform, or I could put a store into a shopping mall and I'm better off. Or the jury's out on it.
I mean, we haven't seen that, but I think it depends on the brand. It depends on the type of product that you're selling.
But you don't think of it that way. Like it doesn't sound like that. It is really like you wouldn't open a store, like a flagship showcase store of any size, in a downtown area to make sure people think of Best Buy when they walk by a very busy place. Like that wouldn't be
without
part of
an
the
ability to interact. And
so the answer is no, not at this stage in our life cycle. But again, I think saying that to a group like this without understanding each business, I wouldn't. There are businesses that would be a thing, right? Depending on how well known your business is. What is your website? I mean, for us, I think we're the third or fourth largest website in Canada. So we spend the vast majority of our time making sure eyeballs go to the website. And from an efficiency perspective, that's 1,000,000 times more efficient than just opening up a store. But again, there's a brand recognition issue there. So I think every retailer might be a little bit different in their stage of growth. It depends.
Scale and scope, yeah.
Like, I don't know if Walmart I don't think Walmart would open up a store for brand recognition. Everybody knows what they are. There's either a store or there isn't.
Well, it just, recently it may be kind of the death of irony when Meta opened up a store to sell the metaverse, right? I mean, it was quite interesting that, the sole purpose of that is not unlike yours, which is engagement. And look, we're in Soho, New York. We exist. Nobody.
But this is a good point, right? I mean, this proves that the store is always going to be important.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that stores aren't important. They are. They're absolutely critical. They're a differentiator. But we already have 135 of them. So we're saying, do we need more? I mean, to Matt's point, I think there's some infill with smaller stores and things like that for convenience.
Yeah.
But it's more about how do I get the product to the customer faster? And I think what you're seeing with, whether it's Amazon or Meta or whatever, they're realizing that there is an experience element to a lot of things. And if you don't have the ability to deliver that, you're missing out on a huge portion of the market.
Let me get back to the marketplace for a bit, and I want to get beyond the efficiencies around supply chain. What role does it play strategically in your merchandising strategy?
The reason we started Marketplace a while ago was we were starting to recognize that even though we had, let's say, 300 laptops, between store and online, we'd have 300 laptops, we were not necessarily number one when it came to assortment. And our expectation as a technology retailer is that if there's any technology that you want, you should be able to go to Best Buy and we would have it. And people were starting their search online. They go to Google, they realize they want this particular laptop. They'd come to our site and we wouldn't have it, and we would lose that customer.
Right.
But putting in inventory, all of that, it didn't make any sense. So that's why we started up the marketplace. We knew we had the eyeballs already, but now it was about being able to make sure we had the breadth of assortment. And if you look at it today, depending on the time of the year, we'll have anywhere from 20 to 70,000 laptops. Different laptops. I'm not talking about inventory, but different SKUs.
Yeah.
And so the point being is, if you're thinking of technology, at no point should you not be able to find it at Best Buy. And that's what Marketplace has been able to do. We've talked about some of the other things as well.
Too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you think, I remember when you launched baby products, for example.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think of Best Buy. I didn't at the time, but I do more now. For commodities like that outside of the scope of the brand essence, right? So has it fulfilled that objective for you as well? Like, how far can you stretch that? Different retailers take different approaches to marketplaces. Some are very curated. Some are like, have at it. Everybody can kind of put product in, but does it achieve that kind of, hey, you know what, maybe that's a category we can put in the store because we seem to be getting some traction in a marketplace.
So even if you walk into our store today, to Ron's point, Marketplace started as an idea. We've played with it. We've tested a couple of things. It's so easy to think that you could be all things to all people in all categories, like Amazon is.
Yeah.
That seems futile. And so you narrow down your scope and say, what kind of marketplace do we want to be? But you could say technology and limit yourself to just the core products you sell today, just have more of them.
Which is still
or you
quite
can
valid.
walk into our store and you can see that there's a baby stroller inside of our store now that is technology enabled. Self-driving, touches to your smartphone. That's a product that you'd expect to find at Best Buy. We went from being not in the thermostat business to be Canada's #1 thermostat company with Nest, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of complement, and so we're getting ourselves into new categories like, e-bikes and fitness gear and so forth that is all digitally enabled that you would expect to buy at Best Buy. And Marketplace gives us an online platform to really reach out and grow those assortments bigger than we could in a physical environment.
And is that the anchor, right? There has to be a component of technology based into the... Dyson's a great example.
Well, I think yes, but I think the most important thing is the experience. So we spend more time making sure that our partners, our marketplace partners, provide an experience that would be equal to Best Buy's experience. That's the most important thing.
Is that a big team? Like, it's like a compliance team?
It is. Well, our marketplace team is over 100 people now.
Wow.
And a lot of what they do is making sure that the experience is the same. Because even though we say in big, bold letters, this is a marketplace item, it's not Best Buy, people still think it's Best Buy.
Still hold you accountable.
And they still hold us accountable. So they come back into the store and like you said, it's a baby stroller and it's not even tech enabled and they weren't happy with it, they can return to the store. So we spend more time on that, making sure that the service levels are there. But second would be we're focused on technology-enabled product or tech product. But there are huge categories. Baby would be one of them. We sell more baby product. We don't really have any in stores, but we sell more baby product than we sell digital camera product.
Unbelievable. It's a bit unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Let's stick with vendors for a little bit. Advice for the vendor. You mentioned Dyson. You got a large swath of vendors. You've got a pretty big pencil, so you're not the average retailer. But talk about for the vendors sitting in the audience, kind of how to grow the business first of all with Best Buy, but also what's the best way to manage relationships with a modern retailer these days? What do you look for? Mercenary versus partner, kind of. Okay, that's table stakes. But what is when you meet with vendors? What differentiates the ones that you're going to grow with and the ones that are going to be successful?
That's a broad question. I think that the first thing is almost all of our vendor partners we've been doing business for years and years. So you have to have this idea that it has to be good for both parties, right? You don't go into negotiation thinking I'm going to win this one and it's at their expense. So that's the first thing.
Iterative.
But going back to Marketplace, a lot of the product on a marketplace is vendor assortment. So I don't know, you take Lenovo, we used to buy 15 laptops, but I think we have over 100 and some odd laptops now on our site that are Lenovo. They have the ability to put and manage their own product on our site. That's the first thing. The second thing is sustainability is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. And so our ability to be able to sell products that have been refurbished either by the manufacturer or by Geek Squad, and then being able to resell it on our marketplace is more efficient for our vendor partners.
Okay.
And it's just good for the environment because in a lot of cases that was either going to landfills or whatever, some other country. And you see that with Dyson, for example. Dyson, all the returns that are happening, they have their own store now, and a lot of the product that is on there is product that they themselves have completely refurbished. They're putting it back on the site. Is
that a big part of your return strategy, the kind of the managing channel A, B, and C and D, the refurb part? And returns, you guys are used to handling returns. I don't think, they've gone up industry-wide because there's a little more sales online, but you guys are already there. As I reflect on our conversation this morning, I think about a business that, I don't know how to say this, but if any business was built for the COVID era, it was Best Buy. You were already agile. You're already ready for super peaks. You already had an organizational. You already going in all the directions. You almost kind of saw the future. But is there any elements there that resonate with you?
Well, I think that, so if you returns specifically, I think before what used to happen is that returns would come back to the store, they'd get reboxed somehow, the Geek Squad agents touched and put it back in the box and you'd sell it there. But a lot of times it'd sit there because people didn't even know it was there. But with our marketplace, now you can actually search for that and you've exposed that box to the entire Canadian marketplace. And so again, whether you're a vendor or one of our stores, the same thing, almost every retailer has a return privilege with their vendors. So they'll get back an amount, and as long as it doesn't go over a certain percentage, you can then return that back to your vendor partner. Well, now they have this inventory. What do they do with it? And that used to be a big problem.
Yeah.
But now they refurbish it, they put it back up on our website and expose it again to the entire Canadian population, and it sells like crazy. And it attracts a completely different customer. So I don't know, if I was in the market to buy a $500 laptop, I can either buy a $500 laptop that has this performance, or I can get a refurbished one that has this performance. And
maybe
good for the environment, good for the customer, more efficient for our vendor partners.
And maybe as we're seeing some pressure on discretionary incomes with the price of gas and the price of food, kind of positions you well. Last question for you. How long have you been with Best Buy?
30, I think it's 31 years.
So you started when you were about 12.
Yeah,
is my assessment. Now, okay, so have you 30 years? Have you ever been as excited as you are today? I mean, you're very refreshed and you're very engaged. Is this period and the period ahead challenging, and you're looking forward to it?
Well, I am actually more excited than ever before. I think that, at least in this business, and I think for a lot of folks, it's, when you're dealing in the technology industry, the retail industry, the consumer behavior, all of these things are changing faster than they ever have before. So there isn't a single day where you wake up and think, wow, I don't have anything to do or anything to
nothing on the to-do list.
Around. It's like, every single day there are opportunities to listen to people in the organization who have absolutely incredible ideas, how we can better service our customer, new profit pools, new areas of business. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to work for a company that is very thought forward and gives us the opportunity to be able to bring ideas to life. And there's never been a time like today where you can make it happen, genuinely.
Right on.
And so yeah, it's been good. It's been really good. I'm excited.
Fantastic. Matt, last question to you. And let's talk about advice to the retailers sitting in the audience. 2 starts and 1 stop. 2 things they should start doing and 1 thing they should stop doing. Not maybe because it was wrong, but maybe it's not going to work anymore or times have moved on. From your perspective and your expertise.
Sometimes those answers are the same.
That could be the case.
Stop. Look, I think you've probably picked up on my sense around the human element of retail. My belief system personally, this is one I hold, is that businesses are nothing more than a group of human beings who've been given tools and a logo on a building to go and create value. Without those humans, without a dignified experience where they can roll out of bed and actually look forward to coming and spending a good portion of their day with their teammates, with their boss, you're making a massive mistake. You can not be tolerant to anything that stands in the way of an exceptional environment where people can be their very best. Our number 1 mantra at Best Buy is that you have to love it here. You ask people whether they've started for 2 weeks or whether they've been with us for 300 years. How do you like it here? Hopefully the answer is because I love it here.
Right.
And everything else becomes easy after that. If you're, I'm going to answer 2, stop, start are the same thing. Leadership on top of that is probably the most paramount thing you can do. This notion of retail as customer first is BS. The customer will never be first if your employees do not come first. And your employees do not come first if your leadership isn't installed and proper and engaged and equipped to do that job. So now look, you can add all on top of that, the processes, very efficient. You can add to that the right tools, the technology, the brand, the cloud, the clean uniform, all that stuff is all bonus. If you don't have that as your core, whether you are, and let me just finish with this. It was interesting to listen to the recipient yesterday who talked about, a small business, an intimate group of, 5 or 6 people who are feeling like a family in a small business. This is easy to foster, right? You're all friends. You're in it together. It's dynamic. You all know what's going on. I believe, and we're doing this today, that we can scale this across 130 stores with 12,000 people, that you can have as intimate and special an experience en masse. And we're doing it today. And that is absolutely at the core of our success.
All right.
I wanted to add to what you'd asked before and what Matt said. Going into the pandemic, we were toying with and experimenting on work from home.
Yeah.
And I remember that the senior leadership, myself, we're all sitting there thinking, okay, well, let's test it. But secretly, we're all like, people are going to be lazy. I don't know how the technology, there was like a million reasons not to do it. All those reasons, subtle, prevent you from making the type of leap forward that you need to make. One of the biggest things I took away from what happened was, on a single day, we were required to take 1,500 people and have them work remote. Had you asked me 2 weeks before, could we do it, I would have said no. But forced to do it, we did it instantly, and it worked better than we could have ever imagined. And so good that we're now a remote work first environment. We're not going to be going back to the office full time. We're not even requiring part time. And to me, it was a lesson to say, all those things that you're thinking about doing, but you have these reasons why you might not. I always go back to that example. There were a million reasons why I thought it was a terrible idea to have everybody work from home.
But
and in a single day, the organization was able to make it happen.
I like it that you just admitted you might have been wrong about something on stage.
All right. Let's leave it right there. Exactly. That's a great place to leave it. Gentlemen, thanks for sharing the insights. Great conversation, and look forward to hearing more from both of you. Thanks again so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this special episode of The Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, be sure and click and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically twice a week. And check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast, Conversations with Commerce Next podcast, and the Food Professor podcast with Dr. Sylvain Charlebois. Last but not least, if you're into barbecue, check out my all-new YouTube barbecue show, Last Request Barbecue, with new episodes each and every week. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of M.E. LeBlanc Company and Maven Media. And if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at meleblanc.co. Have a safe week, everyone.